Hi, welcome to Fish Grind Poker. I'm Ben, a new micro stakes cash game player with the goal of crushing these games and moving up in stakes by studying, analyzing my sessions, and of course by playing some poker. Let's get into it. Well, I just finished playing 46 hands. I won $2.78, which at 1 cent, 2 cent is, I don't even know, 130 something big blinds. So that was good. If I look at the graph, this is a graph that I filtered for 7 players and more at 1 cent, 2 cents. So I got rid of the couple of accidental 2 cent, 5 cent games and the 6 max games that I played very early on. So this is looking good. It's going all up in the right direction. And by stakes, I've played 888 hands at 1 cent, 2 cent full ring, $13.54 won, total of $14.93. But just at the full ring, currently now I have a 76 big blinds per 100 win rate, which is fantastic. This video, though, is going to focus on 2 hands back to back. One I did not even play, but it really, really, really affected the way I played, and I made the biggest call probably of my micro stakes career. So let's go ahead and go to sessions. Let's look at these here, and where was the big one? The big one was one of the, here, $2.31. You can see I had the exact same hand, 10 of clubs, 10 of diamonds, back to back. It was really weird, exactly the same hand. But I had 10s. So first of all, I don't know if this will play. I think it will. I wasn't in this, or at least, well, let's go ahead and play this because this was the hand before the one I really want to show. So it's going to fold. We'll just watch it. All right, so obviously I raised it up. He folded. Okay, so that was not the one I wanted to show. My apologies. Again, it was not a hand that I played, so, but it was right. It was just a couple of hands before the one that I'm talking about. So I folded the 2-4 clearly, and that was not the hand either. Oh, this was the hand, of course, because it went to the river. So I didn't play because I had 3-2 offsuit. Now check out this hand. All right, so villain 24 under the gun raises it up, and so this is big blind and under the gun. 3-6 king. Okay. So under the gun, betting out 7.5 big blinds. So a pot size bet. You know, just as an observer, and this is, again, I mentioned it before, but if you're just starting out, it might seem boring to, you know, watch the other table. You might want to read news. You might want to, you know, have YouTube on. You might want to, whatever, do all these other things, play on your phone. But this is exactly the kind of situation where paying attention will make all the difference. So he bets out and under the gun, so you know, maybe he has ace king, maybe he has aces. I don't know. Under the gun, he should have a tight range, and the king's out there on the board already. So I don't really imagine queens doing this. Maybe a smaller bet with queens, like a 3 big blinds or something, a 3rd pot, 4th pot, something like that. So I'm not sure what he has, but this guy, villain 23, doubles it. I guess it's a click back is what it's called. So they clearly both have something, and I'm willing to bet that one of these guys has a flush draw. They might both have flush draws, to be honest. He could have like ace queen of hearts. This guy, he's in the big blind. So big blind could have, you know, maybe if he's on I mean, maybe he has 5-4, maybe 5-4 of spades. Maybe he has like 7-8 of hearts, or, you know, 8-9 of hearts, or 8-10 of hearts, something like that. I think one of them at least is on a flush draw, and it's probably this one. So he calls, comes out another king. So we could be looking at like a trip kings versus a flush draw. Not really sure. I would imagine under the gun player has a king and he has a flush draw. That's just what I'm thinking as an observer. So he bets out 9 into 37. So kind of a small bet, probably trying to induce the flush guy to come along. But remember, if you are trying to price out a flush draw, which is what this guy probably imagines Villain 23 has, then you need to give him bad pot odds. Betting 9 into 37.5 is not going to do it. That's a good odds. I mean, if I had a flush draw and I had to put in 9 to win 46, I mean, it's easy call. So he calls, completes the flush on the river. So if I'm this guy, unless I have king 6, king 3, king 4, pocket 3s, which under the gun he wouldn't have that, but I mean, he wouldn't have any of those. He wouldn't have any of those. Maybe ace king probably is the most likely holding, or king queen suited, maybe, of spades, I guess. But at this point, if I'm villain 24, I'm pretty much done. I'm gonna, I'll check, call a small bet, like up to maybe 12 or 15 big blinds. Let's see what happens. So he bets 13.5. This guy doubles it, another click back. So he's a click back kind of a guy. And he did have a flush draw and he did have a king. So, anyway, okay. So that's what I saw, villain 23, and he had a flush draw, and when he has the draw, he puts in money, and he probably could have gotten more on the river than just clicking back. I think if he would have thought about it and put in a bigger raise, he would have gotten paid off, because this guy had to set, or this guy had trips. Okay, so that's that, and now we're going to go to this hand, and I'm just going to play it. So I had 10s. This is the second hand in a row that I have 10s. I'm going to go ahead and pop it up. Villain 24. I hope I didn't get these. Yeah, so villain 23. So it's the same guy that we just saw with that flush. All right, so it's 9.5. I bet out 4, a little bit less than a half pot. I have an overpair. I do have the club for the blocker there. And, I could hit a 7 and a 9 or whatever, but I do have the overpair with the club. So I'm feeling, confident enough. If this guy had a pair better than mine, he would have raised me pre-flop, or he should have. So he calls. We get another heart. So now there are 2 flush draws out there. I still have the overpair. No draws. He's not going to come into the pot with a 4 or 5. At this point, I'm thinking he's either got clubs or hearts. I just saw him play a flush draw. So I bet it's 17.5 big blinds. I bet 21. So just like I mentioned before, if this guy wants to price villain 23 out of his flush draw, he needs to bet pot, bigger than pot. He needs to go big. He went really small, let the villain 23 get there on the river cheaply. So I bet big because, again, I just saw this happen. And if he's going for one of these two flushes, he's in trouble. I mean, he's not in trouble, but I'm gonna make him pay for it, pay for the privilege of seeing that river card. And if a heart or a club came on the river or comes on the river, I'm going to be very cautious because I think this guy is a flush hunter. I don't know if that's such a word, but that's what I'm thinking. So I went 21. He called. Comes an ace. So the good thing is that it's not a heart, it's not a club. I felt very confident that he was on a flush draw. He had a flush draw. If he had something like ace 8 or ace king, I mean, he could have ace king, but if he called my 21 big blinds on that 17.5 turn with nothing, with just 2 overcards, that's really bad. I mean, that's really bad play. So I just decided, you know what? I don't think he has overcards, especially after he called. That call tells me he is on a draw, and the draw missed. I was a little bit scared of the ace, but not really. There's no reason why he would have that ace. So he goes all in. And I had a really big decision to make here. I went into my time bank because that's really scary. That's a lot of aggression. That's telling me, hey, I have something. But the story just did not add up. It just didn't. Again, if he had queens or kings or something like that, he would have 3-bet me pre-flop. And by calling that turn bet, that big overpot turn bet, he had to be on a draw. And I just knew it had to be one of these, and they both missed. So I called, and there you go. He had king 3. So another thing I want to mention really, really quick before I close this down is king 3. So okay, he's on the cutoff. The button is still behind him. He's on the cutoff, and he called my 4 big blinds, bet with king 3 suited. King 3 suited. Don't call with king 3 suited. The best case scenario is that you get a flush draw. Worst case, you hit kings, you have a terrible kicker. You hit 3, you have a pair of 3s. Like king 3, he should not have played that. He's very aggressive, clearly, but the previous hand that I showed at the beginning gave me a good idea of what kind of player this was, and his story just did not make any sense. So I feel very, very good about that hand, not just about the result, but because I read his story correctly and then made the right call. So, all right, well, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and or subscribe. Comments are always appreciated as well, but please go easy on me. I am not a professional. Thank